Today I'm going to be talking about something that you will all relate to one day if you've not already done so. And what is that, you may ask? Stay tuned. Today's hot topic I'm going to talk about is a big no-no for a lot of people actually. It makes people feel very uncomfortable. And that topic is grief. There are different types of grief, such as a death of a loved one, loss of a job, or divorce. I know for me, when I lost my loved one, I had a hard time dealing with the process. And I think that has to do with like society saying things like move on, get over it. And I think that has to do with like the topic of grief being so taboo for people. People do not know how to act or respond in certain situations. And I feel like that should change. So in today's video, I am going to talk about one of the most traumatic days of my life, the after effects of that event, and then I want to talk about grieving in general, and then I want to end off with why it's important to talk about loved ones and why it's important to have the conversation and to talk about grief. Okay, let's start with the most traumatic day of my life that happened on September 17th, 2018. I was woken up by a phone call from my mom, and she says I need to go home, and we pull up to the house and one of my grandmas comes out. And she's like, I need you to go in there, shake everybody's hands. I started shaking everybody's hands. And I didn't ask anybody in particular, but I said out loud, I said, what happened? No one answered me. It was dead silent. And I look around the room and I say, where's Michael? And my mom stops me from shaking everybody's hands. And she looks at me like she just saw a ghost, and she says, baby, your brother was in a car accident this morning and he didn't make it. And I said, what? She says, your brother is gone. And I just remembered hugging her and crying. And then I hugged my dad and I sat in his lap and I cried and I screamed because never in my life I thought, oh, this is my brother, just out of nowhere. And that's when my life changed forever. You see, the thing is, my brother was the rock of the family. He was the leader, he was the strong one. He was the one that we all looked to for answers. But at that moment, I knew my family role would change from being the little baby sister to being the strong one in the family to make tough decisions that no one wanted to make. And those decisions were like picking his casket, where he was going to be buried, where his services were going to be, where we were doing the dressing. And I even had to write his obituary, which was not the easiest thing to do. It had to be done, so I just toughened up and I made those decisions. During my brother's services, I never felt so alone and scared in my life. Now that you know about the most traumatic day of my life, let's go on to the after effects of the funeral. So I noticed a lot of people would reach out to my parents, which I'm forever grateful for. I'm glad people reached out to them, but I cannot say the same for me. I had a small group of people and friends reach out to me, but it made me feel some type of way because it made me feel like as if my relationship with my brother didn't mean much as compared to my mom and dad. When I was doing research, I came across a section on cancer.net, and it said adult siblings are sometimes called the forgotten mourners because their grief is overshadowed by the person's parents, spouse, or children. My brother didn't have a spouse or children, so a lot of the attention went to my mom and dad. And that definitely made me feel alone, and it made me feel like as if my feelings weren't valid for people to check up on me. But I will come back to this section later on. I kind of want to talk about grief for a moment. And when I was looking up definitions for grief, I came across a definition that really stood out to me by Recovery Method, and it says, grief is the conflicting feelings caused by the end of or change in a familiar pattern of behavior. And I felt like that is very true. When I lost my brother, I truly felt that grief because I lost a lot of people in my life, but I never truly understood that feeling of grief that I feel now. And I know people grieve differently and they have different symptoms and effects. And some of the main symptoms and effects that people deal with is like insomnia, loss of appetite, not caring about the personal hygiene or the personal appearance, things of that nature. And there's so many other ones, but I felt like these are just like a few that like kind of come out to me, or things that I dealt with after losing my brother. After losing my brother, I didn't know what to do with my life. A week after his burial, I was supposed to start classes and I was supposed to start working. And at the time, I was a student body treasurer. And I didn't know what to do. I had a week to figure it out. And I didn't know if I wanted to continue on with school and hope for the best, or if I wanted to like take a break because I didn't want to set myself up for failure. But taking that week break, I decided to continue on with school and work because I noticed I started to get really depressed, and if I didn't do anything, I would slip into a dark place. But I'm really glad I went to school and I did my job, because I ended up being a really good student body treasurer. And I also got A's all across the board. A lot of people always ask me, how did I handle it? How did I deal with things like that? And my simple response was, I didn't use or abuse drugs. So everything that I felt, I had to feel it. I had to think it. I had to process it. And hard as it was, I feel like overall it made me a stronger person. From personal experience, I've seen a lot of family members and even some friends, after they lose a loved one, they go straight into coping with the use of alcohol. On Alcohol Rehab Guide, it said alcohol can feel like an easy relief, but it can perpetuate your grief. Alcohol functions as a depressant, which slows your central nervous system and the brain. And I didn't like when people used alcohol as a coping mechanism after they lost somebody, because they would drink thinking it would numb the pain and it would help the pain go away. But then after they sobered up, they would just feel right back to like how they felt in the beginning, because those feelings didn't go away because they didn't deal with them. A healthy mechanism that I did was journaling. But after doing journaling, I decided I need to talk to somebody about these things, about how I felt and my brother. And I thought about doing counseling, but I'd done it in the past, and I thought I don't want to waste my time doing that. And then I thought about doing a support group, because I know there's a variety of support groups for parents who lost a child, or children who lost their parents, or people who lost their significant other. But there was none. There was no support groups for people who lost a sibling, and I think that has to go back to that idea of siblings being the forgotten mourners, which was very sad, because I knew I wanted to talk to people about how I felt and my brother, and so I did that. And when I did talk to people about it, it really did help me feel better, and it helped me cope with the loss. The last thing I want to talk about is why it's important to keep a loved one's memory alive, and the importance of talking about grief. In the beginning of the video, I talked about the fear of being alone, and I came to realize that I was in the fear afraid of losing my brother's memory, or that like my memories of him might slip away. So talking about him helped me, and turns out I'm not the only one that felt that way. In a TED talk done by Kelly Lynn, she talks about the fear of losing a loved one, forgetting the sound of their voice or their smell, their life, or that others will forget about them, and that their life won't have mattered. And I feel like that's why it's important to talk about loved ones, because yeah, we have to deal with those fears. And I know that it can be hard to talk about your loved one, because like we don't want to make people feel uncomfortable or weird when we do talk about our loved ones who passed away. And also that like society says that we need to move on and move forward in life. But truth is, with grieving, you never truly move on, you just move along. And that feeling you feel of like feeling certain ways, those feelings never go away. And some days you are okay to function as a normal human being, and some days you're going to be a complete train wreck, and that is completely normal. I miss my brother every day. He was my best friend, my biggest supporter. He was also my partner in crime. He taught me a lot of things about life and myself. I have my good days and I have my bad days. But I'm okay with that, because it means I lost someone who had a huge impact on my life, and that they meant the world to me. I don't want to talk about grief because I feel like it's not talked about a lot, and it should be something that should be talked about more naturally. And society says we need to move on from loved ones. I know I kept saying that throughout the whole video, but Having that type of mentality, it creates people to not know how to act or talk to people who are grieving. If you know someone who recently lost a loved one and you don't know how to act or what to say, the best thing you can do is just listen to them, because that's what they really want somebody to do, is just to listen to them. And if you are a person who is grieving over someone, just know that it's okay to grieve forever if you need to be. There's no time limit, and it doesn't matter how long ago you lost that loved one, because they still meant a lot to you. They are still having impact on your life today, and it's fine. It's completely normal. All in all, you are all going to deal with a situation similar to mine if you have not already done so. And I hope you learned something from my video, because eventually we all die, and your loved ones are going to die too eventually one day. It's almost been 2 years since my brother passed away, and I always thought that grieving was just a weird phase that I was going to get out of, and I was going to become normal again, and I was going to become happy and myself. But truth is, that's never going to happen. I'm never going to be myself again, and I'm completely fine with that. I am going to end this video with a quote from Quinn Flowers, and I am just going to let the quote speak for itself. And it goes like this: I had my own notion of grief. I thought it was a sad time that followed the death of someone you love, and you had to push through it to get to the other side. But I'm learning there is no other side. There is no pushing through, but rather there is an absorption, adjustment, and acceptance. And grief is not something you complete, but rather you endure. Grief is not a task to finish and move on, but an element of yourself, an alteration of your being, a new way of seeing, and a new definition of yourself. But that's all I have for today, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye.